Hi, my name is David Benson. I'm the product manager of Draw.io at JGraph Limited. I'm going to show you in this video the main features of Draw.io, hopefully in as short a time as possible. This video is recreated reasonably often, so it's very much as is. It's more important that we have it up to date rather than it having marketing polish. There will be a transcript of my voice content linked to. It should be linked to somewhere around the video. It will certainly be linked on the YouTube posting. So a very quick background. Draw.io is an online diagram application. The easiest analogy, if you're not familiar with such a tool, is to think of Microsoft Visio, but as a web application. As a company, we are JGraph Limited. You're currently looking at our website. JGraph is an engineering-led company based in the UK and Switzerland. We've been creating JavaScript diagramming components for developers since 2005 now. Draw.io originally started as one of the example applications of our core technology, MXGraph JavaScript library that you see referenced on the site. But then progressing, we added application level features since we launched it originally under the Diagramly name back in January 2011. In terms of what platforms you can use Draw.io on, you can use Chrome version 12 upwards, Firefox 3 upwards, Internet Explorer 7 upwards, although there's no known bugs on 6, we just don't officially support 6 for obvious reasons. Safari 5 upwards, Opera 9 upwards, and also Android 4 and iOS 5 and 6. So the very basics of using Draw.io. If you navigate to www.draw.io, the first thing that will happen is you'll be directed to the SSL version of the site. This is required for using Internet Explorer 9 with Google Drive. I'll explain the various integrations later. IE8 and lower are not supported on Drive, so we don't redirect you in those cases. Use the non-SSL version for IE 6 to 8. So this is the basic user interface. At a high level, there's the main drawing canvas, which I'm going to highlight there. Over on the left you have the libraries, or stencils they're called, with the various shapes you can use, and at the top you have the menu and then the toolbar. You've got an overview panel in the bottom left hand corner that displays a bird's eye view of the diagram. That is interactive, so you can move it, resize it, etc. There are two ways to get shapes from the library onto the canvas area. You can either click the shape, or you can click, hold, drag, release where you want to position it on the canvas. On a touch device, this equates to touching once, holding, dragging and releasing. You can assume throughout this video that click equates to tap on a touch device. Most of the click references will translate in some way to a touch device. Although there is press and hold to get the context to menu, that's the equivalent of right click. That's the only non-obvious translation. There are more libraries than those you can see. The various accordions close and reopen the shapes. And down at the bottom here you've got more shapes. If you click that, you can see we've got these top ones already open. At the bottom, let's select Cisco for example. There's a very well known set of Cisco shapes which we have in vector format in Draw.io. Many diagramming tools offer those. So in terms of basic interaction with the shapes on the canvas, you can move them by clicking, holding and dragging, then releasing where you want to drop it. Avoid the central area for that operation, that's something else I'll come to. You can resize them by clicking and dragging on one of the blue handles that appears when you select that shape. And you can rotate them by clicking and dragging the blue circle that appears above a selected shape. If you're familiar with tools like Visio, the behavior is pretty much identical. To connect two shapes, you can do one of two things. You can either pick one of the fixed points around a shape indicated by a light cross when you hover over it, or you can connect via the central connector that appears when you hover over the center of a shape. not in the touch interface because there's no hover command. The connector appears on a touch interface when you select a shape. I will show you that quickly with the touch equals 1 URL. Touch equals 1. So what happens when it's selected, you get the connector shape here. That's because it's very difficult to distinguish with fat fingers like mine between connecting and touching to drag on the touch interface. But I'll go back to the non-touch interface. So we have two modes of connection. We have the central connector. If you click, hold, drag and release, it will connect to a newly created shape of the same type. If you drag it into thin air, also if you drag it to another shape, you can either connect to the central point or one of the fixed points around the edge of the connector. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a central point to central point connection there, and I'm going to create a fixed point to fixed point connection like that. What you can see is that in the first case the connector terminates on the perimeter of the shape, so you don't get overlap. If you're specific about which side the connector connects on, then you can get overlap if you position it thus. What you could do in that case is select the edge, go to the routing if you're across the pond menu on the toolbar, select orthogonal at the bottom, and that will route it between those 2 points, but avoiding the connected vertices. In terms of editing, if you double click or double tap on touch, you can type in some text. Note that return or enter doesn't finish editing, it starts a new line. Some more text. If you click outside the shape, that then finishes editing. Another option is press escape to cancel. If you press escape while in editing, it cancels the whole operation, it doesn't complete. Selected cells, and that means both nodes and edges, because edges can have text on them. If you select them, you can use the various formatting options available to you, like the font type, the font size, bold, italic, underlined, vertical and horizontal alignment, and text color. In the text menu option, there is also a couple of other options. One important option is text wrapping. If you want your text to fit within a shape, select the shape and go to text word wrap, and that will restrict it to the bounds of that shape. What I'm going to do now is quickly run through some of the menus. I'm not going to do everything because you'll forget what I say. I'm just going to do a few important features that are more commonly used, but it's worth playing around with all the menu options. You'll also find that they're very common paradigms that you're most likely to understand without having to actually play with them. On the edit menu, most of this should be well known. Of note, duplicate, Control D. If you select a vertex and then press Control D, you get a duplicate. And set as default edge is another important one. If you have styled an edge, let's say you've put an arrow on it and you've made it some colour, and rather than having everything be a straight line, you now want that to be the edge style that's used for all edges from this point onwards. You can either right click on the edge and say set as default style, or you could select it and set as default edge there, and if we connect from here to here, we now have a blue orthogonal edge with the text label in, so it's a clone. In the view menu, that relates to zooming and fitting the diagram. I don't think any of that really needs explanation. Formatting relates to the styling applied to connectors and shapes. Those styles not available to the current selection should be disabled in the menu, so curved, for example, is disabled, and the line options when you select a shape, because they don't apply, and vice versa when you select an edge. Oh, they all apply to an edge. Okay. You probably saw earlier the item and note I was going to point out is that line start and end are arrows, and you get things like diamonds. Quite often these relate to things like ER diagrams and UML as well. Although entity relation diagrams do have some specific edges which aren't available as markers. If you go down to ER, you'll find the various custom edges there. On the Arrange menu, what I'll highlight there are two things, which is one to front and to back. All items on the diagram have a Z order, i.e. the order in which you see them if you're looking down at the diagram, and here you can see that vertex is above that one. The Arrange menu appears also in the context menu, so if I say to front, that one is now above that one. The other thing I was going to point out is if there is an overall direction to your diagram, you could implement a hierarchical layout which is called flow in the menu, so you could say horizontal flow. I've applied a custom style to that one, I shouldn't have done. And that tries to demonstrate the overall direction of the graph. The arrows I've actually put on the end of lines, so the arrows are actually going left to right. I've been a bit silly there. The arrows don't actually say what the direction is. It's the direction you start the edge from to the end. So you could do it horizontal, you could do it vertically. There's also, if it's not a directed layout, i.e. doesn't have a flow direction, there's, for example, the organic, let's go for a walkabout, which just tries to put nodes closer to the other nodes that they're connected to. That's not a very suitable diagram to apply it to. It's more something like if you had a social network or links between web pages, that kind of thing. That would produce a better result. I think that's enough in terms of the main features. The options are fairly self-explanatory, just play with them. I will go through the help options. You have support.draw.io, which is the link you get if you click on support. There you have feature requests. If you have a feature request, put it there. There is also an FAQ forum somewhere there, which will get various FAQ entries added to it. If you're not sure some basic usage, please check there before asking. If it's not there, ask and it'll probably end up there. There is the G+ community page, which you get from that icon down in the bottom right with the social icons. That is a stream where we post content rather than you can post content, so you can comment on what we say, but you can't actually write anything of your own. In terms of that, the best place if you want to write something is the draw.io Google community. I don't think we have a link for it anywhere obvious, we'll probably need to put one in, but if you Google Google+ community draw.io, that's 3 terms, it's going to be the top link. Other places you can get help, if it's a developer related question, i.e. if you're deploying draw.io for yourself, then probably the best place is draw.io on GitHub. We also have a tag on the web application site on Stack Exchange. If it's a question that fits the FAQ, feel free to post there, but please do use the draw.io tag and do respect their posting guidelines. If in terms of general questions, the Google+ community, if you can't work out where to post, is a fallback. You can post pretty much anything there. If you have a specific problem, a problem that isn't going to be generic to anyone, like for example you can't save, you can't open, the site functions incorrectly for you, these sort of things we're going to notice if that were the case, because everyone would not be able to save and load, and you don't need to tell us because we'd be in panic mode. But if it looks like it's something specific to you, then open a ticket on support.draw.io, and we'll try to debug it. Unfortunately, all the tickets we've had so far where people have had specific problems, it has been related to their environment. We have many thousands of daily users on draw.io, so and we have a large regression test system. It's pretty unlikely there's something fundamentally broken. It is unfortunately most likely to be your end. We don't monitor Twitter or Facebook. Twitter is just used to reference G+ posts, and Facebook just clones G+ posts. Please don't use them as support forums. The problem is we have so many different places where people could get in contact with us. We need to have some sort of scope on where we do actually promise to answer or not. If you do submit a ticket on support.draw.io, assuming it's a reasonable request, i.e. you haven't just been lazy and not read the FAQ, the turnaround on tickets is less than 24 hours. Now what I've left out is the integrations. At the bottom of the page you can see links to the Confluence plugin. It's still called Diagramly there. That's a free plugin. If you use Confluence, feel free to use that. We have a large range of Confluence integrations. It's not just the diagram in there. We support macro search, pretty much everything you can do with the Confluence API. There's also a link to the Apps Marketplace install. That's very popular again. That uses the Google Drive of your domain users. That's the main integration, and that's the big point I'm going to come to next. Google Drive. Google Drive is the only cloud storage integration that we currently support. There will be more, but I can't say what at the moment. When using Drive, the data goes straight to Google Drive and vice versa. We do not see your data. It does not go via any servers that we own. And this is quite important. This gives you more security than most web applications do, because ultimately it's Google's security that is the weak point of the whole system, and Google do pretty good security. They're better than it than us, and we're very happy to entrust it to them. When you're not logged into Drive, which I'm not currently, if you open or save, that is opening or saving via the local file system. If you don't have a file system, there is a backup mechanism. If you look under File Edit, that is the XML of your diagram, and that is what is saved as uncompressed XML, and that's what's loaded up. So you could, if you had a real problem for whatever reason, copy and paste that somewhere. And also if you had a problem loading, you could take your diagram XML from wherever, copy and paste it into there, and you can either open as a new window or replace the existing diagram. You click OK, and that will load the diagram. That's just a fallback in case you had some problem. That said, obviously having a web application without any cloud storage isn't particularly useful, so we have Google Drive integration. Now I've set up my Draw.io that it will look like how it would look like to you if you had not previously connected to Drive. So if I click Connect with Google Drive, it will say I'm requesting a number of permissions, and what this is basically saying is I want basic information about your account. All we need there is your user ID to be able to link to your Drive, add itself to Drive, i.e. I want to be able to save and load, view your email address. We don't use your email address and we don't email anything out to you. In fact, we don't see your email address. It's not sent to our servers. The reason we have it is because it says connected as in the browser, but you will not receive an email from us. And view and manage Google Drive files that you have opened or created with this app. So if you save something or you use the Drive UI to open a file, Drive.io then has permission on those files, but it doesn't have permission to look at anything outside of files that you've explicitly used Draw.io with. So we can't look at your pictures, your text, anything else. So if we click Allow Access, we can now save. Although it's the same menu, Save and Load will be using your drive, and Open actually will be the Google file picker. So it will pick draw.io files in your drive. Nothing else will appear because, as I said, we don't have permission to look at them. One other thing is to be able to open it directly from the Drive UI, you will need to install from the Chrome Web Store. That's not an extension, it's not a Chrome extension. You don't need to have Chrome in order to do it. You can do it with any browser. I'm going to show you just with Chrome as an example. So you type in Chrome Web Store draw.io, and there we have it. So you just click Add to Chrome, or if it's not Chrome, it'll say Add, I guess. We say Add, and all that will do is one, it will pop up as one of your installed apps on Chrome if you're using Chrome, or two, it will enable you to click on links within Drive and go straight to the app. Unfortunately, Google just do it that way. That's the only way to do it at the moment. But I would suggest that for complete integration, to both install the permissions and then install it from the Chrome Web Store. Once you are connected to Drive, note that the previous open and save to local file system are still there. You can import, and that is open from local file system. And if you export and then select XML, that is the equivalent of save to local file system. And on export, the other thing of note is you have image exports there to PNG, GIF, and JPEG. You also have PDF export, and you have SVG export, so you can export to vector format as well. That's pretty much it in terms of usage. If there's anything that you really feel should have been added to the video, you've had it explained where you can contact us, please do. In terms of cost, this will probably be a question or a thought for many people. Everything is free currently. And what we've always promised is that once you start using the product within any particular integration or just the website, you will not be later charged for licensing at any point down the road. So any pricing that we introduce, and yes, we will introduce it because people are willing to pay for this, will be applied to new users only. So if you are now using draw.io, or you start using it after listening to me, you will not be charged at any point further down the line. Some forms of licensing control may be added, particularly on Google Apps for Business and Confluence, but you will receive a lifetime free license as an existing user. So there might be a licensing system and you may have a license key, but that's just to fit within the framework, and you will receive a license. So any feedback, just go back in the video and you can see where to give it, and we look forward to hearing from you.